Picture this. A 68-year-old man walks into a dealership ready to buy what might be the last new car he ever owns. He does not want a lap timer. He does not want a menu inside a menu inside a menu just to turn on the seat heater. He wants to get in, adjust the temperature without a physics degree, and drive somewhere comfortable. Then the salesman hands him the key to a 2026 SUV with a screen so big it looks like it belongs in a movie theater. No knobs. No buttons. Just glass. That, right there, is the exact nightmare we are solving today. Here is the part nobody in the car industry wants to say out loud. Touchscreens are not actually good for driving, and they are especially not kind to drivers who grew up turning a physical dial to change the radio station. Automakers spent the better part of the last decade ripping buttons out of dashboards to save money and look futuristic, and drivers, especially older drivers, have been paying the price ever since, hunting through submenus at 65 miles an hour just to turn down the fan. Even safety regulators overseas have started paying attention. Starting in January of 2026, Euro NCAP, the organization that hands out Europe's 5-star crash ratings, began requiring real, physical controls for basic functions like turn signals, hazard lights, the horn, and windshield wipers, specifically because their own research found that even 2 seconds of looking down at a touchscreen can double the risk of a crash. That rule does not apply here in the United States, but it tells you everything you need to know about which direction this industry is quietly being pushed. So today we are doing something different. This is not a horsepower countdown. This is not a 0 to 60 brag session. This is a buying guide for anyone shopping for their final brand new car, the one you actually want to enjoy instead of fight with, built around 2 things and 2 things only. A soft, back-friendly ride, and controls that do not require a computer science degree to operate. 5 2026 family SUVs, rank from solid all the way up to spectacular, and every single one of them still gives you real, physical buttons for the functions you touch every single day. If a guide like this is useful to you, or to your father, or to whoever in your life is about to make this exact decision, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button before we get into it, because we are about to save somebody a very expensive, very uncomfortable mistake. Let us start the countdown. Number 5 on our list is the 2026 Honda Pilot Elite, and I want to start here because Honda did something genuinely rare this year. They gave the Pilot a mid-cycle refresh, handed it a massive new 12.3-inch touchscreen, 37% bigger than the outgoing unit, plus a 10.2-inch fully digital gauge cluster sitting right in front of the driver. And then, instead of shoving climate control behind that glass like almost every other manufacturer on Earth has done, Honda left the knobs alone. Real, chunky, physical knobs and buttons for temperature and fan speed, sitting exactly where your hand already knows to reach without looking down. Testers who have spent real time in this cabin keep saying the same thing, that the climate knobs feel solid and substantial, and that Honda has done a great job keeping the most commonly used functions out of the touchscreen entirely and within easy reach of the driver. Under the hood, the Elite runs the same naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6 Honda has trusted for years. 285 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, paired with a smooth 10-speed automatic transmission and standard all-wheel drive on this particular trim. Nothing turbocharged, nothing fussy, nothing that is going to surprise you with an expensive repair bill 5 years down the road. Honda also packed an extra sound deadening material for 2026, so the cabin is noticeably quieter at highway speed than the previous model, and they retuned the electric power steering for a calmer, more settled feel right down the middle of the lane. The Elite trim specifically layers on a heated steering wheel, ventilated front seats, heated seating for both outboard positions in the second row, and a panoramic moonroof, all wrapped in soft gray leather with diamond quilted ultra-suede accents. Starting price on the Elite lands at $53,695. For that money, you get 8-passenger seating with a removable second-row middle seat, letting you switch between a 7- and 8-passenger layout whenever you like, plus Honda Sensing, their full suite of driver assistance technology, standard across every single trim in the lineup. Second-row legroom measures a generous 40.8 inches, with 40.2 inches of headroom, so nobody back there is folding themselves in half on a long trip. Honda backs the Pilot with a 3-year, 36,000-mile basic warranty and a 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. Nothing flashy, just the same steady coverage Honda has offered for decades. It is the most sensible seat on this entire list, and honestly, for a lot of buyers, that is exactly the point. Moving on to number 4, we head over to Subaru for the 2026 Ascent Touring. Now, I want to be straight with you about this one, because a good buying guide tells you the truth and not just the highlight reel. The Ascent's infotainment software is genuinely a little dated at this point in its life cycle. Reviewers who spend real time with it describe the graphics as busy, and the touch response as occasionally slow to catch up with your finger. But here is why it still earns a spot on this list, and it is a big reason. Subaru kept real, physical volume and tuning knobs on every single Ascent trim, something plenty of far more expensive SUVs have deleted entirely in the name of looking modern. On top of that, the temperature controls for the driver and front passenger are large, dedicated, physical buttons that you can find and press by feel alone, without ever taking your eyes off the road. You are not hunting through a touchscreen submenu just to warm up your hands on a cold morning drive. Every 2026 Ascent comes standard with all-wheel drive through Subaru's symmetrical system, along with X mode for slippery or uneven roads, and 8.7 inches of ground clearance. Power comes from a 2.4-liter turbocharged Boxer 4-cylinder engine, 260 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque, sent through a continuously variable transmission that Subaru has deliberately tuned for smoothness over outright speed. Reviewers who tested this thing back-to-back against sportier three-row crossovers kept landing on the same word, comfortable, describing it as a big, cushy SUV that favors comfort above practically everything else. The four-wheel independent suspension is tuned the exact same way, built to soak up bumps rather than telegraph every seam in the pavement straight into your spine. On the touring trim specifically, you get Nappa leather upholstery, ventilated front seats, genuine wood grain trim accents, and a 54-inch panoramic moonroof, plus best-in-class third-row legroom for the segment at 31.7 inches, which matters enormously if grandchildren are ever riding back there on a family trip. Pricing starts at $51,165, and Subaru backs the entire package with their EyeSight Driver Assist Suite as standard equipment, plus a 5,000-pound towing capacity for anyone who still hauls a camper or a boat. Number 3 brings us to the 2026 Kia Telluride SX Prestige, and this one comes with a small twist worth knowing before you shop. Kia is rolling out a fully redesigned, second-generation Telluride for the 2027 model year, which means the version currently sitting on dealer lots labeled 2026 is actually the final, fully sorted year of the original Telluride, carried over completely unchanged under the skin. For a buyer who wants zero surprises and zero first-year bugs on a brand-new redesign, that is not a downside. That is the entire appeal. This is a vehicle Kia has spent years quietly polishing into one of the most refined three-row SUVs on the market. Power comes from a 3.8-liter V6, 291 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque, backed by an 8-speed automatic transmission and standard all-wheel drive on this trim, with towing capacity up to 5,000 pounds. Automotive reviewers have repeatedly compared the Telluride's cabin to vehicles costing twice as much, praising the soft touch materials, the solid-feeling door handles, and a cool, industrial-looking carbon fiber style trim instead of the fake wood grain you find in cheaper SUVs. The suspension is tuned specifically for comfort and stability over sharp handling, which happens to be exactly the priority list we are working from today. The SX Prestige trim specifically loads in Nappa leather seating, a head-up display, heated and ventilated second-row captain's chairs, a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel, and a 12.3-inch touchscreen running Kia Connect for infotainment, all for a starting price of right around $51,390. And because this is the final year of a fully proven design, Kia backs it with one of the best warranties in the entire industry, 5 years or 60,000 miles bumper to bumper, and 10 years or 100,000 miles on the powertrain itself. For somebody buying a car they genuinely want to keep for the next decade without drama, that warranty alone is worth a serious conversation with your dealer. Number 2, and we are getting into genuinely special territory now, is the 2026 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy. Hyundai has been publicly vocal about this exact topic, with senior product executives telling reporters this year that the company considers heavy reliance on touchscreens to be dangerous and stressful for drivers, and that Hyundai will always keep physical buttons for the functions people use constantly, specifically naming volume and climate control by name. The calligraphy trim proves they mean every word of it. Yes, you get a sweeping curved display housing two 12.3-inch screens, one for the digital gauge cluster and one for infotainment, but reach just a little higher on the center stack and you will find real knobs for volume and tuning, shortcut buttons straight to key touchscreen menus, physical air conditioning controls, buttons for the heated and cooled seats, and a dedicated button for the heated steering wheel. Reviewers consistently describe the climate panel as an intuitive mixture of physical knobs and digital buttons that keeps the cabin comfortable without ever forcing you to dig through a screen just to stop shivering. And comfort really is the entire personality of this vehicle. The calligraphy trim includes a massaging function for the driver's seat, an extendable leg cushion on both front seats, adjustable side bolster width, and a genuinely remarkable second-row feature Hyundai calls Max Relax, which reclines the second-row captain's chairs into something closer to a business-class airline seat than anything you would expect in a family SUV. The suspension includes power-adjustable ride modes with self-leveling in the rear, so the Palisade stays composed and level no matter how it is loaded down for a trip. Under the hood sits a 3.5-liter V6 making 287 horsepower, paired with an 8-speed automatic, and Hyundai also offers a 2.5-liter turbo hybrid producing 329 horsepower for buyers who want more efficiency without giving up any of that comfort. Reviewers who took long 2.5-hour road trips in the Calligraphy came back describing themselves as refreshed rather than stiff and achy, which, if you are shopping for a final car built entirely around comfort, might be the single best review sentence on this whole list. Pricing on a well-equipped Calligraphy lands around $58,300, And Hyundai backs the whole thing with an outstanding 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. One quick, practical note before you sign anything, on any vehicle, new or used. Always ask your dealer to check for open recalls and confirm the latest software updates before you drive off the lot. It takes 5 minutes, and it can save you a real headache later. Which brings us to number 1, the Holy Grail, the car we save for the very end because nothing else on this list can touch it for sheer, unapologetic comfort. This is the 2026 Genesis GV80, and specifically, the 2.5T Prestige trim, the exact point in the lineup where Genesis unlocks a feature called electronically controlled suspension with road preview. This system uses a forward-facing camera to physically scan the road surface ahead of the car and pre-adjust the damping before your wheels even reach the bump. Reviewers describe the result as gliding over uneven pavement with a light touch, soaking up freeway expansion joints and parking lot transitions that would rattle lesser luxury SUVs straight through the cabin and into your lower back. Now, I have to be honest with you here, because honesty is the entire point of this list. The GV80 has the single biggest screen of any vehicle we have talked about today, a sweeping 27-inch curved OLED display that stretches across the dashboard, combining the gauge cluster and the infotainment system into one seamless panel. On paper, that sounds like it breaks our entire rule for today's list. But Genesis solved the problem in a smart way. The Tri-Zone climate system lives on its own dedicated physical panel underneath that big screen, with real temperature knobs you can operate without ever glancing over, and reviewers specifically call out the climate controls as a highlight for their ease of use. And if you would still rather keep your hands entirely off the glass, there is a rotary dial controller sitting between the front seats that lets you operate the infotainment system by feel. It takes a little practice to master, reviewers are honest about that too, but once it clicks, you genuinely never need to poke at that giant screen while driving down the highway. Power comes from a 2.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 300 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque, paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission and standard all-wheel drive, and this trim can tow up to 6,000 pounds when properly equipped. The Prestige trim adds heated rear seats with their own dedicated control panel for second-row passengers, power-adjustable side bolsters up front, 22-inch wheels, and a head-up display, all wrapped inside a cabin so quiet and so thoroughly insulated that reviewers keep comparing the ownership experience directly to German luxury rivals costing thousands of dollars more. There is even a built-in cabin fragrance system with swappable scent cartridges tucked inside the glove box, because at this point, Genesis clearly decided that comfort should extend to your sense of smell too. An 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system rounds out the cabin, and Genesis backs the entire vehicle with a 5-year, 60,000-mile basic warranty, a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, and 3 years of complimentary scheduled maintenance, a coverage package that genuinely outclasses every German rival in this class. Starting price on the 2.5T Prestige lands at $73,500 before destination charges, which is real money, no question about it. But if this truly is the last new car you are ever going to buy, and you have decided you are not compromising on a single thing, this is exactly how you go out in style. So there you have it. 5 2026 SUVs that actually understand what comfort means, starting with the honest, no-nonsense Honda Pilot and building all the way up to the Genesis GV80, wrapped in leather, quiet confidence, and a suspension that reads the road before you even feel it. Every single one of these keeps real, physical controls for the functions you touch 100 times a day, and every single one rides soft enough to make a 2-hour drive feel like 20 minutes. Now I want to hear from you down in the comments. Which one of these 5 would actually be your final car, or is there another 2026 SUV out there that deserves a spot on this list that we completely missed? Let me know down below, and I will see you in the next one.